So again, welcome again to Race to 99 Percentile, a head start, right? I am Sazil Shah. I am your host for the day, and I will be bringing in the other experts to talk about the different subjects. So, for example, we have GP, who everyone knows GP, right? So, and everyone loves GP. So we have GP who will be taking quantitative ability. Right, we have Jijo who will be conducting the VARC session, and Ravi Teja who will be conducting the DILR session. We know these names, right? Even if you're not a part of CL, you know these names. So we are going to ace all the sections today and get to RT99, race to 99 percentile. So that's the agenda for the day. Moving on quickly, what is planned for you? You know, after this session, also a quick glimpse of that. What is in it, what is in store that we have planned for you. So the first thing is, let me start with the second point. Okay, so CDC has already started. Countdown cat mocks have begun. The analysis are also happening, right? And I hope you have enrolled for this. If you have not, you should take it up. This is something that the race has already started, my friends. If you are still waiting, मैं मई में करूंगा, जून में करूंगा, जुलाई में करूंगा, you will be making a mistake, because the prep is one thing. It will go on at its pace. There is mocks and mock strategy and analysis which will go on parallel to that, right? It is not that पहले course खत्म कर लेंगे फिर हम लोग we'll take the mocks. If you are going by that strategy, you are making a mistake. At this juncture, you should have taken a couple of past year mocks or other mocks so that you already know कि है क्या, राइट? कैट चीज क्या है? अगर तुम्हें पता ही नहीं कैट चीज क्या है, तुम क्या प्रिपेयर कर रहे हो? दैट इज द लॉजिक ऑफ दिस. सो बेसिकली यू हैव टू start taking your mocks. Okay, we have also this year started a little early on daily dose, right? We are already live on daily dose every day. Students of CL who enrolled for either of the courses or daily dose, right? They have no. This is a separate product if someone wants to try it out. So daily dose, every day we are giving you some small tests to solve, right? And these start at 3 a.m. in the morning and close at 12 p.m. 12 midnight. So it's just for the day. If you miss it, you miss it forever. So that's the compulsion, that you need to take some test every day and be in touch with things on a daily basis. So that's the purpose of daily dose that has started. Hope you are using that. Of the CDC mocks, there are 3 mocks which are open CDC mocks. So any of your friends can take them up, right? This will be going live soon. Coming to the first point, which is RT99 workshops. RT99 Head Start is the first one. Then we'll go into RT99 Drive mode somewhere around July, mid-July. So we have the dates fixed, but we will announce it afterwards, where we'll be taking up the slot 2 for discussion and taking the strategy discussion further. And these master classes will be longer classes in detail for over 2 days. So this is a beginning or a precursor to the next one, right? Where we'll be building on what we do today for the next session. And then there is going to be some offline sessions also, which we call RT99 Sprint. So RT99 Head Start, RT99 Drive, and RT99 Sprint is how we are going to conduct this. Please note that this is all of this that I've mentioned so far is included for all the CL classroom students. So you need not separately purchase this. I just wanted to make sure that by mistake jaake purchase na kar lo. So classroom students, don't worry, but rest of the students might have to purchase these.
Here, out of the 3 sections, what we are looking at is the third section, the Quant section, which has got 22 questions, 40-minute section, and 66 questions, 66 marks at the rate of 3 marks per question. And I'm sure all of you know +3 or -1 for MCQs. And for theta, which is type in the answer, which you don't have choices, it is +3 or 0 is the marking scheme. Okay. And this was the most important slide from your point of view. Let me look at the 99 percentile mark. One other thing which I want you to remember as far as this is concerned is, please remember that percentile is not equal to percentage. Okay. There's a difference between the two. Okay, a percentile is a rank. Unfortunately, while percentile is your marks divided by the total marks in the section. Okay, this is something all of you know. Unfortunately, most of the students tend to confuse the two. Despite knowing percentile is not percentage, they go out looking for percentage. And most of the time, my challenge with the students is when I say 99 percentile, they are thinking it as 99 percentage. Okay. It is not the same. Please don't fall into this trap. Your job is not to get a 99 percentage. Your job is to get a 99 percentile. And which is what is important to remember, that in any CAT paper of the last 30-40 years, okay, since 1990, I know the CAT papers. If you look at since 1990 till date, in general, 50% marks is greater than or equal to 99 percentile. Okay. So please remember, my job is to, if I'm looking at marks, I'm looking at percentage marks, I'm looking at 50% marks. And this is very, very clearly evident in this paper also. In this paper, overall, there were 66 questions, 198 marks. Okay, 198 marks, 66 questions, less than 50%. Less than 50%. Similarly, if you look at verbal, 24 into 3, 72 marks and 24 questions. Again, it is exactly 50%. Same thing if you look at DILR, it will be less than 50%. And at the aggregate level again, at the quant level again, I'm sorry, again 22 questions, 66 marks, less than 50%. So please remember, 50% is a terrific score in CAT. So don't go for percentage. Don't go for trying to attempt all questions, because if you get this thing in your mind, your paper taking technique changes completely, and you are more willing to leave questions rather than attempting every stupid question that comes your way. And this is the syllabus for quant. By and large, this can be as high as 40%. This could be as low as 30%. But typically, whatever I say, this is typically 70 to 75% of the paper. Okay, this is typically 70 to 75% of the paper, which means out of the 22 questions between these two, you will typically get 15 to 16 questions out of 22. Okay, and then the rest, maybe about 3 odd questions from here and 3 odd questions from here. Okay, so that's the kind of paper structure you have. Okay, and out here also, what you can say is this portion is probably going to give you 2 questions. This portion will give you 1 to 2 questions. Okay, so when you're looking at this paper, you should also be clear that what you studied in class 9th, 10th is majorly responsible. This is what you studied in class 9th, 10th. This is what the paper is. So those of you who do not have maths after 10th, please don't worry. Actually, this also is after. This also is 9th, 10th. Okay, so those of you did not have maths in 9th, 10th, after 10th, sorry, you need not worry about it. It's perfectly okay. Okay. And just to re-emphasize, just to again reiterate and make sure that you don't miss out on this aspect. Okay, 95 percentile in CAT 23 was 6 questions, 90 percentile was 4 questions, and 4 questions for 85 percentile. Now, why are 85 and 90 percentile important? If you are a general category candidate and you do 5 questions correctly, get a 90 percentile, you're absolutely safe. Actually, the sectional cutoff for quant, the highest sectional cutoff for quant, if I remember correctly, is for IIM Lucknow, which is 85 percentile. So if you get 5 questions correct in quant, you are way above that number, and hence your sectional scores will not. You are eligible for all the institutes then. Same thing if you are from a reserve category candidate, SC, ST, OBC, the number that you are looking at is one of these numbers. Okay, so in the worst case also, even if you don't know anything, you can always get 5 questions correct. The important thing in getting those 5 questions correct is you have to be able to identify those questions. Unfortunately, the challenge is that most of the time students spend so much time on those difficult questions that they miss out. And as we go through the paper, I would want you to keep a track of the number of questions which you have attempted based on the logic that I'm giving you. And that will tell you how difficult or easy was the paper. Most people say very difficult paper. Yes, the marks indicate it was a difficult paper. But after I took CAT, this was my slot, CAT 23. Slot 3 is the paper I took. When I took that paper, after the paper, my first thing was there were 15 to 16 questions which were doable. But students will do about 9 to 10 questions. Why did I? What is the reason for this gap of 6 odd questions? Because I knew students are going to waste time doing questions they should not be. Okay, and that is what we'll be able to see out here also. And so we look at which are the questions you should or should not have attempted and how you should have attempted those questions. Okay. Okay. The right approach for the paper is doing it in 3 rounds. The reason you need to do that, again, I am repeating possibly, and some things most of you would be aware of, but for the benefit of those who are not aware of this, the paper does not give you sufficient time. It's a 40-minute paper with 22 questions. If you have to do this paper in 40 minutes, if you have to do all the 22 questions, then logically you need about 60 to 70 minutes, if not more. Some people might want more, but I think 60 to 70 minutes is sufficient, which is clearly telling you that trying to do the entire paper is stupidity. Second thing which you need to remember is the marks per question is same. Marks per question is fixed. Okay, every correct question will give you 3 marks per question only. It is +3 if you get it right. Okay, and which means it does not matter whether it's an easy question or a difficult question. Okay, it's a 30-second question or a 13-minute question. It does not really matter. Finally, no marks for steps. Okay, no marks for steps. Now, if this is the situation out here, why should I be attempting any difficult question or any question that's going to take time? Why should I worry about all these steps and go stepwise manner only and not use the choices? And this is the approach that needs to be inculcated, because if you can get this approach in place, doing about 12, 13 questions is definitely not a problem. In fact, going beyond 15 questions also is very, very easily possible if you can incorporate what we are suggesting out here. So how should you attempt the paper? Instantly, I'll say, take a rough sheet of paper. On that, write down the R1, R2, R3. And as we keep doing the paper, you keep on writing for yourself which are your round 1, round 2, and round 3 questions. But what are these? I'll explain. So you start the paper by looking at only the easy questions first. Round 1 consists of only the easy questions, which you are sure of solving in less than 3 minutes. In fact, sometimes 2.5 minutes is the number that you should be looking at, which means these are questions you are 100% sure you know you'll not make a mistake and you will not be wasting a lot of time in it. Okay? Then there will be questions which are doable but take time. Okay, and also these are questions. There are some of these questions which you are not sure. You will say, I can attempt these questions, but not sure. Okay. Now, again, if these are questions we are not sure of solving, why do you have to do it in round 1? Leave it, come back to it later, and we'll look at them later. Okay. So round 2 is for those questions which you know how to solve, but will take time, or which you can solve, but you are not 100% sure about it. Now, these are the questions which on your platform you should mark for review. Okay. You should mark for review. Why mark for review? Because if I have time in the end, I'll come back and look at them later. And then we have round 3 questions which are essentially not to be attempted. मेरे को कुछ लेना देना ही नहीं है इससे. Which means यार समझ ही नहीं आ रहा सवाल में क्या है. My ground rule for this is, if I have to think, if I have to think, if I have to apply my brain, if I have to exercise my brain, leave the question. Leave the question. That is not worth attempting. It is, I'm not in the paper to satisfy my ego. My job in the paper is to keep attempting the question I know, keep attempting questions which are easy, keep attempting those questions which I can do within 3 minutes, and keep leaving the rest. If I have time later in the end, I can always come back and do these round 2 or the mark for review questions. So at a very generic level, I will say round 1 is easy questions. Okay. Round 2, which I'm sure of solving. Let me also write that word, sure of solving, 100% sure of solving. I know what exactly is to be done. Round 2 is my mark for review questions, which is nothing but time consuming or not 100% sure. Okay. And round 3 is leave. This is the basic premise on which you need to work, because if you do only these round 1 questions, I can assure you would have done 7 to 8 questions and you will be, if not more, at least 95 percentile. Okay. And in addition to this, if you look at these two, obviously you can easily get a 99 plus. Secondly, we will be discussing what are called jugars. Now, jugar is a term that most of the students have given it. I never called it jugar, but students have started calling it jugar, so I'm just following that their lead. And these are what are jugar? Jugar is usage of choices. Usage of choices. Common sense. Okay. So we'll look at techniques which will help us get to the answer fast. That is what we are looking at. Okay. So let's look at this paper and let's go ahead with it. And what's the time? 10:31. So I hope to finish it in 40-45 minutes, but I may extend the session by about 5 to 7 minutes as required. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the first question. Now, let's look at the question. For real number x, if these three terms are in arithmetic progression, then what is the common difference? Okay. Now look at this particular question. This is a question which is first of all a logs question. So the question you need to ask yourself, is it logs? Yes, it is logs as well as arithmetic progression. Because there's an arithmetic progression, there's a common, we need to find the common difference. So if I'm looking at this question purely as an arithmetic progression, I'm not doing justice to the question. Because if I don't understand logs, I can't solve this question. So if you say logs, I don't understand, leave the question and move on. Okay. If you say logs, I understand, great, round 2 question. Why round 2 question? Because out here, if you look at this question, this is log of base 3. This is log of base 5. And the choice run in base 4. I'll have to convert everything to a common base to get it. Secondly, it is going to take a little time in solving. After all, what is common difference? These are three terms, T1, T2, T3. So it will have to do T2 minus T1 is the common difference, which is also equal to T3 minus T2. So I have to do this thing, difference of these two terms and difference of these two terms. Obviously, these are in logs. I'll have to convert them. I'll have to move them to a common base and I'll have to solve it completely. And the choices are not such that I can use them directly. So there's a data set which is telling me, or there's a question just telling me it will be time consuming. So as far as I am concerned, this is not a round 1 question, but a round 2 question. So why did you know logs? Okay. Second thing which I want you to remember, look at this question and say, okay, look at this particular thing again. As I said, the answer choices are always are all in log of base 4. So the first thing you should do is convert this also to base 4. Convert both these to base 4. Okay. So if you convert everything to base 4 and start doing it, the chances of your saving time are going to be higher. So question to be attempted only in round 2, not in round 1. It is a doable question, but it will take time. This is not a question which you can do any kind of a shortcut, hence a round 2 question. Okay. Okay. Second question. For some real numbers a and b, the system of equation x plus y equal to 4 and a plus 5 into x plus b square minus 15y equal to 8b has infinitely many solutions for x and y, then the maximum possible value of ab. Now, a couple of things out here. The moment it has said the maximum possible value of ab, what does that mean? There will be multiple values of a and b. This tells me there will be multiple values. And then I will have to find the maximum looking at those particular values. Okay. So one, it will require some amount of work. Second thing, or more importantly, what is the condition for infinitely many solutions? Okay. Do you know what is the condition for infinitely many solutions? Condition known, yes, it's a round 2 question. Condition not known, it's a round 3 or a leave question. Okay. So there is a function of you know the condition or not. The condition is if I have two equations a1x plus b1y equal to c1 and a2x plus b2y equal to c2, the condition for infinite solutions will be a1 upon a2 equal to b1 upon b2 equal to c1 upon c2. Now, which means in terms of this equation, what will you need to do? Coefficient of x is 1. So 1 upon a plus 5 is equal to coefficient of y is 1. 1 upon b square minus 15 equal to 4 upon 8b. What will you have to do? Now you have these equations with you using these two equations, which will effectively be a quadratic equation. Find B. Now, since I have a B square out here, that means B will have two values. There will be a plus and minus value, two values. For each of those values of B, you'll need to find the corresponding value of A by comparing these two. Okay. So as you see, the stepwise process is required, and you need to go through the complete process. Here, the choices again are not of great help to me, so I cannot say much about it, because when I look at the choices, what are these choices? This choice is 5 into 3. This is 3 into 11. This is 5 into 11. This is 5 into 5. So only when I find B can I say, okay, is a 5 appearing, is a 3 appearing? Supposing only 11 is appearing, even then, there are two choices. Do I go for 33 or 55? Supposing B has 5. B is 5 plus minus 5. That means it could be either this or this. Actually, this one cannot be the answer. Unlikely, I would say, because same value of A and B is unlikely. But end of the day, there's a question where no choices will help. You'll have to go through the complete process. I know what is to be done. I think it will take me a little more than 3 minutes. Hence, I'm leaving it for round 2. This is not a round 1 question as far as I'm concerned. How many simple sitter questions were there? These were the ones. भैया ये सवाल क्यों नहीं किए? These 7 questions itself would have got you to 97th percentile. Problem ये नहीं कि पेपर मुश्किल है. Problem ये है you are missing out on easy questions. Now you add these जुगाड़ questions also. 15, 21 plus 24, 45 marks. भैया हम तो स्केल के बाहर चले गए थे. Okay. Now this is what is important. I'm not saying you do all the questions, but out of these jugaad questions, can you do about 3 questions? Out of these 7 questions, can you do about 5 questions? 8 questions would have got you here at least. Okay. This is what you need to understand. Your job is to pick the easy questions, attempt them, and leave the remaining. And हाँ जुगाड़ तो लगाना है. अगर नहीं आता है तो सीखो. Yeah. In Career Launcher test series, most of the mocks I come out with my jugaad solutions also, where you'll learn this thing. But सीखो तब जाके होगा. Okay.
Having said that, let's get started with what the percentile distribution in DILR in CAT 2023 looked like. Now, 10 questions, that is 2 sets, led to about 99.5 percentile in DILR. 10 questions, that is about 2 sets, led to about 99.5% in DILR. Now, here is where I make this statement. In VRC, you required 14 questions. In VRC, you required 14 questions, and Quant also you required approximately 10 questions. Last year, Quant was tougher as compared to all the previous CATs that happened in the last 3-4 years, and hence it is 10. Otherwise, that number here would have been about somewhere around 12 to 13, right? So DILR is the section in which you maximize your percentile within the section with the lowest possible score. So to my mind, DILR is the section which you should not be worried about being able to solve all 20 out of 20 questions. If you are actually able to solve 20 out of 20 questions, you are God, you are very good. But even if you are able to solve 2 out of the 4 sets or 10 out of the 20 questions, you should land in a very safe zone. So the process of DILR, essentially DILR, data interpretation logical reasoning, DILR is again decipher, infer, layout, and resolve. That is the process here that I suggest you follow. What do you mean by deciphering? There's a setup given in the question. Read the setup and try to understand what the language of the question is like, or what the kahani, what is the backdrop of this story. ये कहानी कहाँ से start हो रही है? Like if you have watched a film like KGF, ये कहानी start होती है जब वो पैदा हुआ, वो सोने का वो खान खोल रहे थे, वहां से start हो रहा है. That is the setup. That setup, if you don't understand, the setup itself or the language of the setup is outside your purview. कि आपको समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है इसमें क्या हो रहा है. Leave. The second thing definitely is read the data points, look at the size and the length of the data points as well, and then infer data out of it. Then layout, that is representation of data, and then finally you have to resolve, that is solution. Solve questions, right? If you follow this process, which is well explained in the next slide, by the way, if you are able to follow this process, see, I am going to tell you, there is a 5-step process to success, right? Step 1 is read the setup. Step 2 is understand the data, but between understanding data and laying out the data and representing it, there is one very, very crucial, most important step, that is read questions and try to understand what kind of data you are supposed to find out. So straight away, let's jump to the questions. DILR, Slot-3, CAT 2023, first set. So there is an air conditioner company that has 4 dealers. So this is the point area that I call the setup. These are the data points. First, I will try to understand the setup. An air conditioner company has 4 dealers, D1, D2, D3, D4. It is evaluating sales performances of these 3 dealers. The company sells 2 variants of ACs, windows and split. So there is a window and there is a split. Both these variants can be again inverter or non-inverter type. So there are 4 variants of ACs actually. Window AC, window inverter, window split, window inverter, window non-inverter, split inverter, split non-inverter. There are 4 basically. It is known that the total number of ACs sold in the city, 25% of them were window variant and the rest were split variant. So window is 25x, while split is 75x. This is some data that we already know. Among the inverter ACs sold, 20% were window variant. Okay, I'll just make a note of this point because I don't know what to do with this point at this point, but among the total inverter ACs sold, 20% were window variant. I spent the first 1 minute to understand the setup. Let's go to the data points. Every dealer sold at least 2 window ACs. D1 sold 13 inverter ACs, while D3 sold 5. Okay, I'm just reading through the data points. At this point, I'm not jotting down anything. I'm not putting anything over here on the table. But at this point, I'm just reading through the language of it and trying to understand it. There is nothing that I feel was very, very difficult to interpret. So I get a green signal from the setup. I get a green signal from the data. The third step is essentially looking for the data set, looking for the questions. Look at the questions. How many split inverters were sold by D2? D2 sells how many split inverters? Okay. What percentage of ACs sold were non-inverter type? What was the total number of ACs sold by D2 and D4? What was the total number of ACs sold by D2 and D4? Interesting. Why will they ask for total number of ACs sold by D2 and D4? Chances are you will not be able to individually determine the number of ACs sold by D2 and D4. You can probably determine the sum of that. Number 2 is that you have what percentage of ACs were sold non-inverter. This is a definitive answer. This is a definitive answer. This is a definitive answer. The first 3 questions have definitive answers. So these 3 data points definitely you should be able to find from the table. Which of the following statements is necessarily false? When do you get these kind of question statements? Necessarily false. Necessarily false is a question statement that will appear in front of you if there are cases possible. More often than not, if there are cases possible, you will find questions with this kind of a language, necessarily false or necessarily true. Okay. If D3 and D4 sold an equal number of ACs, then what was the total number of non-inverter ACs sold by D2? So if, that means condition. So question 4 and question 5, 1, 2 and 3 are definite answers. Question 4 and question 5 are telling me that I may not be able to find everything in the table even if I form the table, I will not be able to find everything in the table. But whatever I will be able to find in the table, jitna bhi table banega thoda bahut, usse question 1, question 2, question 3 I should be able to solve question 1, question 2 and question 3. This is the hint that it is giving. I've spent about 3 to 4 minutes on this set. I've decided I will solve it. Why? Because after forming the table, I should be able to get minimum 9 marks from this. Question 4 should also be formed basis that table itself, because necessarily false, this is not adding any additional condition. If at all any additional work has to be done, it has to be done only for question 5. So if I use these 6-7 data points and I am able to form a table, whose table say I should be able to get 12 marks. That is the math I'm doing at this point. And then I have decided, yes, I'll solve this set. Okay. Now let us look at the data points. D1, D3 and D4, D2 and D3, D2, D3 and D4. Sold by D2, sold by D3, D2. So most of the points are given with respect to the subject of each of the lines. Subject of each of the lines, most of the lines are the dealers. So whichever parameter maximum data is given about become your y-axis of the table or the extreme left column of the table. So my extreme left column of the table are D1, D2, D3 and D4. And then the columns become the types of ACs that are there. So there is inverter window, then there is inverter split, and then there is non-inverter window, and then there is non-inverter split. And then there is a total number of this. And there is a total of window ACs and a total of split ACs also. Okay. So let's Take a look at these numbers. What do we know? 25% of the total ACs sold were windows, and 75% of the total ACs sold were, this is split total. Okay, 25% of the total ACs sold were window variant, and the remaining were split variant. So if I get a 25x over here, I'm going to get a 75x over here. If you notice, I've taken a long table, large table. Okay, I've taken a table with space in it, so that even if there are variables and numbers, both of them fit into the same grid point. Okay. Okay, every dealer sold at least 2 window ACs. Not helpful at this point. I'll come back to this. Okay. D1 sold 13 inverter ACs, while D3 sold 5 non-inverter ACs. D1 sold 13 inverter ACs. That means first 2 grids of D1 add up to 13, while D3 sold 5 non-inverter ACs. 5 non-inverter ACs. Like third and fourth add up to 5. A total of 6 window inverter ACs and 36 split inverter ACs were sold in the city. 6 window inverter ACs and 6 window non-inverter ACs, 6 window non-inverter ACs, non-inverter window, and 36 split inverter ACs, 36 split inverter ACs were sold in the city. 36 split inverter ACs were sold in the city. Okay. There was this point which I had left over here. Then, among the inverter ACs sold, 20% were window variant. Inverter ACs में 20% is window variant and 80% is split variant. If 80% corresponds to 36, 20%, 1/4 of that should be 9. So what is the total number of window variants sold now? 9 plus 6, 15. If 25x is 15, what is 75x? This is going to be 45. That means the total number of ACs sold is 60. The total number of ACs sold is 60. So the total number of non-inverter split ACs must be 9 to add up the total sum to 60. These are the things that I can deduce from this point. Point 2 I have completely used. Point 3 I have completely used. I'm going to point 4. Number of split ACs sold by D1 was twice the number of window ACs sold by it. Split ACs sold by D1 is twice the number of window ACs sold by D1. So split ACs by D1 is twice the number of windows ACs. So if this is 2x, this is x, the total number of ACs sold by D1 must be 3x, right? I've taken note of this point. D3 and D4 had sold an equal number of window ACs, and this number was 1/3 the number of similar ACs sold by D2. Window ACs में D3 and D4 sold an equal number. So if this is y and this is y, these two numbers are 1/3 of the number sold by D2. 1/3 of the number sold by D2. This is 3y. This is 3y. Each dealer sold at least 2 window ACs. That means x is greater than or equal to 2. This x is greater than or equal to 2. Y is also greater than or equal to 2. What do we have? We have x plus 3y plus y plus y. X plus 5y equal to 15. X plus 5y equal to 15. The smallest value that y can take is 2. If y equal to 2, x becomes 5. The next value of y, at the next value of y, x becomes 0. If y is equal to 3, x becomes 0, which is not possible. That means we have a fixed solution for this. X must be equal to 5 and y must be equal to 2. The moment x equal to 5 and y is equal to 2, the moment x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 2, you have 6 over here, 2 over here, 2 over here, and 5 over here. That means this is 10, and the total number of ACs sold by D1 hence must be 15. Total number of ACs sold by D1 must be 15. At this point, what are the questions we can answer? What percentage of ACs sold were of non-inverter type? Non-inverter type kitne hai bhaiya? 6 plus 9, 15 out of 60. I got my first 3 marks, 25%. I got my first 3 marks. Next thing we should be able to find. How many split inverter ACs did D2 sell? That means our next target is this grid point. Our next target is this grid point. Let us see what else is given in the data table. D2 and D3 were the only ones who sold window non-inverter ACs. D2 and D3 were the only ones who sold window non-inverter ACs. Everyone else sold 0 then. The number of ACs sold by D2 was twice of these ACs sold by D3. So D2 and D3 are in the ratio 2:1 and the total is 6. That means D2 sold 4 and D3 sold 2. D2 sold 4 and D3 sold 2. We know the total number of window ACs sold by all of these people. Out of which D1 has to sell 5. If D1 has to sell 5, D1 has to sell 5 and he has 0 non-inverter. He must have 5 inverter type. He must have 5 inverter type. That means this becomes 8 because these two numbers taken together was 13. These two numbers taken together was 13, right? So we have 5 plus 8. The total of D1 is 15. So this number must be 2. Okay, let's look at D2. In D2, total number of window ACs is 6. We already have 4 over here. That means this number must be 2. This number must be 2. Okay, fair enough. Let's look at this. D3 sells only 2 window ACs. He has sold 2 non-inverter windows. So this number must be 0. That means this number must be 2 to add up this to 9. To add this up to 9. And then we have D4, which has satisfied this condition. Okay. Now let us look at the other data points. Okay. Now let us look at the other data point, the last one. D3 and D4 sold an equal number of split inverter ACs. D3 and D4 sold an equal number of split inverter ACs, which was half the number of similar ACs sold by D2. D2 sold twice as many as D3 and D4 individually sold. That means if this is 2A, this is A, and this is A. Taken together, these add up to 4A. 8 plus 4A is 36. 8 plus 4A is 36. That means 4A is equal to 28. That means A must be equal to 7. So if A is equal to 7, this number is 14, this is 7, and this is 7. What did the question tell us? The question हमसे क्या मांग रहा था? Question हमसे मांग रहा था कि total number of ACs, inverter split ACs sold by D2 मांग रहा था. We have found out it is 14.
Okay, anyways, so let's start with understanding CAT VRC. You know, the section, it's 40 minutes. There are going to be 24 questions in those 40 minutes. Total 72 marks. Each question carry 3 marks. Marking scheme for the multiple choice questions. There is +3 and -1, -1. The non-MCQ question, you can call it type in the answer. There is no negative marking. 2 type of questions are non-MCQ. The paragraph odd sentence questions, a couple of them, and the paragraph jumble questions. So in paragraph jumble, essentially you are given 4 sentences, which is jumbled in and then you have to arrange in the correct order. So you type in the answer as, let's say, 2, 3, 1, 4, or whatever. You have to type in the particular answer. You're not given choices. In paragraph odd sentence, you can see 5 sentences. 4 of them actually belong to a particular paragraph. 1 of them does not belong. 1 of them is odd. You have to type in that odd one, maybe 3. Okay, that's what happens. Okay. So you're given 40 minutes. One other thing that I wanted to at least help you understand here is, if you look at the type of questions, you get 4 RCs. I've called it passage comprehension. There are, this has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. My numbering is wrong. This should have been 2. This should have been 3. This should have been 4. Okay, so now we'll take care of that in every slide, because every slide is going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll get 4 reading comprehension passages, 4 questions each, and that will be 16 questions of reading comprehension. And the other is verbal ability. When you look at verbal ability, you have questions which is like, what is the first one? Paragraph completion. A paragraph is given, a sentence is there, a paragraph is given. You have to basically figure out where the sentence will fit into the paragraph. Paragraph odd sentence, I just explained. Paragraph jumble and paragraph summary. Everything is about paragraph. So the 4 types of EA questions multiplied by 2 each. This was the last year's composition. Those 8 questions. But you understand this is about evaluating a paragraph. And what is reading comprehension? A passage, which is a combination of paragraphs. So at the end of the day, whatever be the question type the CAT is asking is an out-and-out comprehension-based paper. They're not testing grammar. They're not testing vocabulary, though vocabulary might help, but they're not testing, giving a word and say, what is antonym, synonym. The CAT is not testing any of this. So which means CAT is not testing your knowledge at all of this, which means no prior knowledge is required to answer any of these questions. Practically, CAT VRC is open book exam. Everything that you need to answer the question is there. So, for example, how do you decide whether to solve this passage or not? How do you decide? What will you do? Are you going to read questions? Which is the following supported by the passage, according to the passage, mean difficulty, passage number 2. Are you going to read questions and decide? What does the question tell you? Or very likely you're going to look at the passage and go, let me read a little bit about the passage and see what happens. Passage number 1, understanding romantic aesthetics, research in a subject, distinguished scholars, other love your knowledge, but notorious tell you romanticism. Emmanuel, he can't ask Gaba. I know philosophy is very bad. Something like that you do. You go to passage number 2 and go, I don't know. Steven Pinker new book, rationality. This I understand. Rationality, I understand. Okay, passage number 2 karne ka apne ko. Passage number 3, biggest challenge. Number curves, prevailing climate crisis. Climate and all. First romantic aesthetic, climate and all. Let's look at this passage. Met Art Museum. something in the museum, Greek urn, started Aphrodite, cultural property, patrimony. I don't know this law, but I'm thinking that out of these 4 passages, sir, I will do passage number 1, though I will not touch it. Passage number 2 and 3 also, I'll do this. Something like that you're going to do. This is very similar to reading comprehension only, paragraph summary. Elimination is the key. That's it. The weight of society's expectation is hardly a new phenomenon, but it has become particularly draining over decades. Perhaps because expectation themselves are so multifarious and contrary. Expectation is hardly a new phenomenon. Weight of expectation. Society expects a lot of things, not new. The perfectionism of 1950s was rooted in the norms of mass culture and captured in famous advertising images of the ideal white American family that now seems self-satirizing. In that era, perfectionism. Now, obviously, repetition of idea, perfectionism. Key idea got it. So the topic is perfectionism only. Okay. Perfectionism. Why would author repeat this? Perfectionism in that era, old times, perfectionism meant seamlessly conforming to value, behave in appearances, conforming. The perfectionists today feel the obligation to stand out. So they are standing out. This is a passage. Now look at the answer choices. The image of perfectionism is reflected in perfections by the media. See, sidetracking. Media is not the hero. People do their best to adhere to these ideals. Idea is once upon a time. This is like wrong. Though long-standing, the pressure to appear perfect, perfectionism, and thereby attract attention, has evolved from time 1 of conformism to non-conformism. The pressure to appear perfect has been the cause of tension and conflict, because idea itself has been a state of flux, hard to define. Alien. What definition? The desire to attract attention is so deep-rooted individual conscious that people are willing to go any length. The tone be different. The idea be different. Answer choices do the same thing. Look at this here. I'm quickly saying this. Okay. First of all, there is Beena. There is her. There is she. So, itna guarantee after 1 we'll have 3 and 4 in some order. Okay. First we have to enter the name. Then there is a way of solving this problem. What problem? So something has to come before it. So 3. 3 is a start. E-waste contains huge quantity of valuable metals, ceramics and plastic that could be salvaged and recycled. Currently not enough of it. So e-waste is a problem. Veena Sajwala, a material scientist of University of South Wales, believes there's a new solution way of solving this problem. Okay. Now let's look at 2 and 4. Her vision is for automated drones and robots to pick our components, put them into small furnace and smelt them into very, very specific. Broad से specific जाएंगे ना, broad से specific जाएंगे ना. She plans to build micro factories that can. Okay, that's the plan. So the 4 is a plan, and 2 gives detail of the plan. That's it.